Hi everyone, welcome back to another video on 10 power 100 Karnataka. This is Tejas. I am back to do another video on the YouTube channel over here to help all of you do well in your examinations. Now you must be wondering what is he going to do today, because I've already done the English videos for 3 marks and 4 marks. So you might be thinking, what should I do today, right? So I was going through a lot of your comments on the channel itself, not just the English videos but the other videos that were recently made, and there was a lot of demand for economics videos, right? So here I am today, standing before all of you, making a short video on how do you tackle the economics exam that is coming up in the economics exams that you will be writing in the month of February, March itself, right? So I hope that this video will help those who are interested to learn about economics and be ready for your economics examination. So without further ado, let's begin with this video. And let's try to understand how do we get 80 on 80 in economics in the best way possible. Okay, so like every other subject, I think it is very important for any course subject student who is studying for the examination to look at the blueprint, right? So what I am going to share with you is the blueprint of the economics examination. If you have written your preparatory exams, you will already know the blueprint. And I think that in this section, I'm just going to quickly explain to you the blueprint itself. So as you are aware, economics is divided into two core elements, that is microeconomics and macroeconomics. Under microeconomics, you have introduction to microeconomics. You will have your chapter on theory of consumer behavior. Then you have production and costs lesson. You have the theory of firm under perfect competition, and then market equilibrium. So these are the lessons that are there in your microeconomics section. Look at the weightage for each of these things, right? If you look at it, both macro and microeconomics has almost good amount of weightage. So if you look at around 120-ish marks, both the sections almost have around equal weightage. So it's important for you to prioritize certain lessons which is easy to score, which is easy to study as well, right? So if you look at it clearly, theory of consumer behavior is one lesson which has all questions across the board. Meaning you will have your MCQs, you will have your 2 markers, you have your 4, 6 and practical oriented questions as well from that lesson. So automatically that lesson takes precedence over other lessons. So that's first lesson that you should focus on. In microeconomics, again, I think production cost, theory of firm under perfect competition is also are also good lessons for you to focus on, because again there are key concepts over here which are important. Different graphs, different aspects, different concepts like the short term and long term concept. Then you have average revenue, market revenue, all of the marginal revenue, all of those concepts that comes from these lessons. Then the second section is your macroeconomics section. Again, you have introduction to macroeconomics here. Macroeconomics. Under this, you will have national income accounting. This is, I would say, is again very important. You look at the weightage, right? It's 17 marks, which means apart from 4 markers, you have this ranging in all the different sections of the exam paper. Then you have money and banking. I would say this is also important. Then you have income and employment, government budget and economy, and open economy, macroeconomics. So if you look at macroeconomics, it looks like the distribution of marks is quite even for all the lessons. But my personal preferences will always be for this lesson. Do put a little bit more stress on these lessons. Money and banking is again another lesson that I would think you should be focusing on. Of course, open economy, macroeconomics also seems to play an important role here as well. So if you look at the entirety of the 11 lessons that you have, I think focusing on at least a good 5 to 6 lessons will help you get good amount of marks that is going to push you towards achieving that 80 on 80, right? It's all about strategically thinking. So what I will do in the next part of this video is I'm going to show you the first model question paper that was released by the board, and we will try to decode the type of questions that come from those lessons, whether this blueprint is followed or not, and how do you answer those questions, right? So I'm just going to share a few tips, and then towards the end of this video, I will tell some important concepts that you should keep in mind from each of the lessons, ranging from consumer behavior till money and banking, right? So I'm going to try to cover at least around 3 to 4 lessons in this video. And if need be, we will be doing subsequent videos for economics as well, which will help you get your marks. So First thing is first is your MCQs, and I think the core element of your MCQs over here is for you to be very very sharp, right? Because a lot of students in core subjects, what they do is the MCQs do turn out to be a little tricky. One or two questions can be a little bit here and there, so in-depth understanding of the concepts is important, right? Which means I would never urge for you to skip the lessons, but I would urge you to follow the blueprint and see which are the how the 20 marks is distributed, which are the lessons that is possibly going to give you those 20 marks. And for this reference, I would always say focus on the question bank that has been provided to you. The board has released a question bank for economics. I think it has an exhaustive a list of questions that are there for you, and it should really help you get those questions, right? So now these instructions I will try to explain to you in a very friendly manner so that you understand it very well, and I hope that should help you. So some instructions that you should keep in mind is, I think we tend to forget these instructions, no? So write question numbers correctly. It should be continuous. For part A, that is this MCQs, if you attempt second time or third time by scratching answers, I think the first answer will be considered as what they're saying. And part F is only for visually challenged students, those who are unable to draw diagram based questions or numericals. Those children will be attempting those questions. So now without further ado, let's look at the part A questions. Now here, if you look at it, you have questions from, this is from consumer analysis. You have a 1 mark question here. Then this automatically tells you that this is from production and cost lesson. Then total revenue, it's coming, right? So if it is total revenue, then you know it is from theory of firm in perfect competition. Then you have RBI. RBI is again from money and banking. And credit encourages availability of credit. Again, this comes from money and banking, right? So if you see, it is following the blueprint pattern itself, but what's important is that you should know that there are key things that are kept in mind. You look at this, there is also questions that they're asking about the function, production function they're asking you. They're also asking you a numerical, right? So for this, you should have that conceptual understanding of the concept itself. So that's your MCQs. Now we are fill in the blanks. Again, variety of questions are there. This question comes from economy, so it's from mixed economy lesson. Then you have want satisfying capacity of a commodity is very commonly asked question, again from consumer behavior, right? Dash is determined as at the point where the demand of labor and supply of the labor curves intersect. Labor curves is a concept that comes under production and cost. So this is again from production and cost lesson. Then you have net contribution made by a firm. Net contribution is a very important concept that comes under national income accounting, right? So think about that. This is from national income. And then foreign currency. This is from your last lesson, which is open economics, macroeconomics, right? So open macroeconomics. So again, you see variety is there, but there is a lot of repetition. I told you focus on 3 or 4 lessons in microeconomics and macroeconomics. Those questions keep repeating from those lessons itself. So it's important for you to keep that in mind as you're preparing for your exams. Then we have match the following and one word answers. So match the following, again, expect questions from consumer behavior, then theory of firm, income and national income accounting, and open economic, right? So these are the lessons that are left out in the 20 marks that you have under it. And finally, you have your 1 mark questions, which is state and explain the laws of short-run production analysis. I would say for this, remember all your laws, your definitions, your meanings of key terms that comes from these important chapters, which have the 1 markers allocated to it, right? So what is supply? It looks like a very simple question, but you should be able to remember that this is a key thing that you should remember by writing the words, keywords, right? Name the well-known work of Adam Smith. This is again from Introduction to Macroeconomics, right? So that's a question from that. Velocity of circulation of money. Again, this lesson has so many concepts. It has M1. Then you have things like barter system. You have commercial banks. You have RBI is a lender of last resort. They can ask you to explain that for 1 mark. All of those things, right? So keep in mind that, and also state the meaning of public production. Again, this comes from could be from the Introduction to Macroeconomics. So what I'm trying to say is, go by the blueprint, see the 1 markers that are there, and then prepare for it accordingly. It could be in your MCQs, it could be in your 1 markers, and all of these questions, if you look at your question bank, it is all there, right? So as long as you have your question bank and you prepare the answers that are there from that question bank, I think that should be a good to go for you for 1 markers. So that's how you get your 20 marks. Focus on your blueprint, look at the question bank and try to practice those questions. Remember the key like definitions, laws, these are very important. It could be simple numericals could also be asked. Maybe they can just ask you to find, let's say, the concepts like total variable cost, or they can ask you to find the total fixed cost, or sometimes they can ask you to find the short-term average cost by giving you the necessary details for it, right? So these kind of numericals could also be there. So just keep in mind, simple numericals could also be asked for your 1 markers. Okay, now for your 2 mark questions, you need to out of this number of questions that are given to you. I think you have around 5 plus 5, 10 questions. So out of 10, you need to answer 6. Production possibility frontier is again a very common question from Introduction to Microeconomics, right? So then factors that determine the optimal choice of a consumer, automatically it is from consumer behavior lesson. Then you have questions from production cost, you have questions from theory of firm, you have again multiple questions actually from production and cost. You have question number 22 also here, right? 4 factors of production, very simple answer it is, but again they are there, and also asking to mention their rewards. This is also very, it was repeated question, keeps coming several years, right? So keep in mind in that. Then you have MPS, marginal propensity to save. These are all key things that are there in these lessons, right? So question number 24 again is from income and employment lesson, right? So those questions are important. But again, here what you can do is definitely you see that there are 2 questions from production and cost lesson. There's 1 question from consumer behavior. There's 1 question from theory of firm. There you have your 4 questions. Then you have 1 question from national income and accounting. That's 5. Then if you have studied Introduction to Microeconomics, then you will get another question from. So you have 6 questions can be covered by those 4-5 lessons that I said, which is consumer behavior, then theory of firm, then national income, right? Introduction to Microeconomics, and again you have 2 questions from production and cost itself, right? So here you have almost 6 questions that you are thorough with. So the other lessons, again, I'm not saying you should skip it, but what I'm saying is that these, if you are thorough with these 6 chapters, you should be able to do your 2 markers also very well. So that's the suggestion that I have for your 2 markers. Now let's move on to the 4 mark questions. So in the 4 mark questions, there are a lot of things that are again, a lot of lessons that repeat, right? The first thing from your 4 markers is again, you will have questions from Introduction to Microeconomics. This is centrally planned economy. It's a very basic, very simple answer also, right? Then you have question from market equilibrium. This is a question where you'll have to calculate a few things over here. Then explain the determinants of firm's supply curve. Supply curve automatically comes from the theory of firm, right? So that is a lesson that I'm emphasizing and saying that you have to focus on this year. Then market equilibrium again, then role of government, household sectors in both developed and developing countries. So that's again from your, it could be from your national income lesson. Legal definitions of money. This is from money and banking. Then you have closed equilibrium level of income. Suppose income increases to 400, find the new equilibrium income. Simple numericals again, right? But these are quite important things for you to keep in mind. This again comes from income and employment lesson. So keep that in mind. Ricardian equivalence. This is again from government budgeting chapter. And then you have the last question, which is around the different capital account components, right? That is from open economy, macroeconomics. So again, if you are smart, now let's see how many questions. You're supposed to answer 5, right? So what are those 5 lessons? The most common lessons that I'm saying that you should focus on is theory of firm, national income, money and bank. 3 questions are already here. Now you need to focus on 2 questions more. I'm saying focus on Introduction to Microeconomics because again it's important, and you will have to study 1 more lesson. I think my personal preference here could be again income and employment lesson because it's not very big also, it's not very confusing also. There are a lot of repeated questions that come from this lesson, so you can go ahead and do that as well, right? So I hope your getting the trick of studying for this, right? It's not about reading the entire textbook and then overwhelming yourself at this point of time. For those who really want to strategically score 80 on 80, like I've said in my English videos, I would say the same in the economics videos. Thorough study of your textbook is very, very important, but smartly infusing the resources will also help you very well. Now let's move on to the 6 markers, where you need to answer 3 questions, right? You will have a list total of 5 questions that you should focus on. Again, you'll see questions from consumer behavior. The first question is again from consumer behavior. Then you have production and cost, and you have national income accounting. And that's what I'm saying, that these 3 lessons are good. It's good, important lessons for you to focus on. And of course, if you want another backbone support for you, you have money and banking as well. So all the lessons, like I said when I showed you the blueprint, focusing on these 4 lessons along with a couple of more will help you like really get 80 in a very strategic manner, as long as you're reading these lessons in depth. Okay, so these are some examples that are there of the questions that have appeared in the model papers. Of course, similar patterns type of questions are there. I would also refer to the question bank that has been given to all of you, which is available on the website. Please go and refer to the questions on the question bank, which will help you get your marks easily. Now, the last main that you have in economics is your part E, which is your practical oriented question. This time there are 3 numericals that are provided to you. One numerical comes from consumer behavior, one numerical comes from your market equilibrium lesson, and one numerical comes from national income and accounting, right? And these are very basic questions. This is not even, I would say, a numerical. This is just actually identifying the equilibrium point, and it's very simple. You can notice it right here, right? Wherever you see the demand supply is equal, that is your equilibrium point. Equilibrium price is the corresponding price that is here. Equilibrium quantity is here. Excess demand and excess supply is very easy to calculate as well, right? So practical oriented questions, these type of questions are very easy, and it will give you easily the 10 marks that you should be scoring from the last section, that is part E. So overall, that's your economics paper, right? Of course, it does look like 5 to 6 lessons are dominating, and hence I'm going to share with you very quickly what are those key things that you should remember from each of those lessons. Now, all right, let's start with introduction to microeconomics. Now, in this lesson, keep in mind that there are so many things, right? One thing that you should definitely focus on is the central problems of economy. What the central problems of economy are, right? Like what to produce or how much to produce, like the quantity of production and for who to produce, etc. The differences between micro and macroeconomics, again, is very important. So read through that chapter. It's quite simple and it is easy to score there as well. The next lesson that I would say is important is consumer behavior. Now, under consumer behavior, what are the things, right? There's so many things. It could be simple things like they can ask you the expansion of MRS, which is marginal rate of submission, right? Then you have marginal utility. You will have the concept of budget lines. You have the law of demand itself, right? Like when the price of a commodity at ceteris paribus, that is when everything is constant. When the if price increases, the demand, the quantity, the demand will automatically decrease, right? So those statements, those laws are important. Then you have elasticity of demand, the types of it. There are numericals on how to calculate elasticity of demand, which is again very commonly asked questions for 2 marks or 4 marks. Then you have total utility, marginal utility, then the laws associated with it, right? The very famous diminishing marginal utility law. You have law of indifferences, the features of indifference curves, right? Like for example, one of the feature is that if it slopes downwards, then it will always slope downwards, which is left to right. Similarly, higher indifference curve will probably lead to high levels of utility also. So these are key things that you should remember from this lesson. Very technical, I would say, but it is very easy to remember as long as you remember those examples that are quoted. Those examples will help you understand this lesson quite well. And also do write those examples in your exams. Next, you have the lesson which is production and cost. Now, under production and cost, so many, again, multiple concepts are there. You have the short and long run concepts. This is very critical, very important question. Law of returns to scale is there. Then you have average product, total product, marginal product calculation. They'll give you a table and they'll ask you to calculate these things. Very simple formula as long as you're able to know how to do it. Um, then they can also ask you the law of variables proportions, then consumption, what is the meaning of it, and all these words like total fixed cost, total variable cost. Then you have the uh, sh- short run average cost. Then you have your short run marginal cost, how to calculate these things. Now when you are talking about average cost short run, then it is actually average variable cost plus average fixed cost, right? So just keeping these things in mind. And short run marginal cost is similar to the delta, that is the change of total in total cost upon the change in the quantity of input, right? So all of these things is something that you should be keep in mind, the formulas and solving things. There is a practical oriented question that might come from this part as well, right? The next chapter is a very easy lesson again, which is the theory of firm in perfect competition, right? So that's a very simple lesson. Again, here you have that first lesson, that is production and cost, was all about cost, expenses, etc., right? This lesson is all about revenue. So you have your average revenue, your concepts of marginal revenue, what is profit, what is shutdown profit, what is opportunity cost, the features of perfect competition is again something very important, calculation of profit, and marginal profit. Then when total revenue and total cost is given, then you will have to calculate few things over there. Break even point, what is the meaning of it? Price elasticity of supply, this is a very commonly asked question for your long answers. Short term and long term supply curves, again very commonly asked question. They'll ask you to draw diagrams and then explain these things, plus your market supply curve as well, right? So again with diagram. So very predictable questions these are. Why I'm saying that these lessons are important is because it's very predictable. If you study this set of questions, there's a high possibility you might get these questions in your exams, right? So and that also shows that you have the depth of these lessons, which is very important when it comes to economics. So I would say these are good lessons to read in micro. Now in macroeconomics, of course, like I've been saying, you have your national income and accounting. Now in this lesson, again, so many concepts are there, right? So what is the meaning of final goods, what's the meaning of consumer durables. Then you have questions like what is depreciation itself. A very simple 1 mark question can be asked, or just a few twisted questions around this could also be there. Net value added, gross value added, gross domestic product at market price, cut. Market price, factor cost. Yeah, you can focus on concepts like deflation, GDP deflation, gross domestic product at factor cost, product and income methods, the national income aggregates, what does it mean, and the explanation towards it. All those different aggregates, right? There's one table which is there in your textbook which talks about the GDP at market price, GDP at factor cost, net domestic product at market price. Now the calculations vary here because for this you'll have to subtract depreciation, right? So there are different calculations and formulas here. Again, these could be asked for your 6-mark questions as well, and this is very commonly asked. So they might ask you a practical orient. In the practical orient question, there will be a very simple table that will be given to you where they will give you total production, the interim goods value, and you will have to find the value added, right? Very simple. It's just a simple formula. Value added is equal to TP minus interim goods value. Very simple, and you'll have to use that formula to calculate the fill in the blanks section. So that's a simple 5-mark question. And of course, the last lesson that I would say is important is money and bank. Now, under this, remember that there are so many questions again they can ask. With this little theory heavy lesson, I would say, but it's also easy because it's very easy to understand, right? Questions can vary from barter system, the limitations of barter system. These could be 1-mark and 2-mark questions. Similarly, you will have what's the meaning of commercial banks, RBI being the lender at last resort. Why? Could be a question, right? So then liquidity trap, what is the meaning of it? Again, these questions you will find it in your question bank. Similarly, the main questions could be functions of RBI, very theory heavy question, that is functions of money itself, right? Like what is the role that money plays itself. And there's one very interesting question, the story of Lala on the process of deposit and loan. right? That could also be a question that they can ask you for 4 marks. And of course, you have your open market operations as well. So overall, I think if you're able to cover these key concepts that I just shared with you for these lessons and map it to the question bank that you have received from the board, I think that should be a good enough resource for you to prepare for your exams, right? So that is pretty much it, what I would want to share for economics. I know that it feels like there's so much to study, right? But economics is a very fun subject. It is a lot about practical understanding of how things function in the day-to-day life. So if you are able to look at this, and if you're able to internalize these concepts, I'm sure you'll be able to do well in your paper. And my attempt was to help you get those information that will help you prepare for your examination as well. So I really hope that this video helped you get an understanding of what are the lessons that you should focus on, how should you prepare, what are the key things that you should prepare for. Just to summarize, 6 lessons, very important. Choose another 1 or 2 lessons which will give you benefit in the examination. In case if you are unable to answer those questions, study these 6-7 lessons in depth, right? Instead of trying to study everything which will get you confused, try to study these 6-7 lessons in depth, which will give you the long answer marks. For your short answers, refer to the question bank, refer to model papers, refer to your 2 preparatory exam papers. I think you will get an understanding of what the board is trying to test you, right? Once you have that understanding, I think you will be able to really do well in your economics exam. So that's what I'm trying to share. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for continuing to support this channel, which is helping us grow, which is helping you learn, and which is helping everyone actually achieve whatever they want to achieve, right? So on that note, I will stop this video for now. We will come back for another video for economics itself. I will explain to you the numericals in economics in another video. These numericals are very, very simple numericals which will help you get very easy marks without breaking your head and studying long theory answers, right? So I will promise you to do that video next for economics. I will also come back with English videos which will help you score well in English as well, right? So please do continue supporting this channel. Please do share these videos with all your friends who are taking up examinations across science and commerce. And I really hope that you will be able to do well in all your examinations. Best wishes for all of you. Thank you so much for watching. Please do share with your friends and comment if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you again.